Hi guys, it's today and welcome back to my channel, and today I am continuing my read-alongs for Modu, otherwise known as silent reading. And today, if all goes as it should, which it never does, but if it does, then we are going to be finishing up until chapter 50 of Modu, and then we are going to be switching over to Urha. This was originally my plan, was to get up until chapter 50 for Modu, because I heard that's kind of where the adaptation stopped. So I wanted to get to here, even though I know it's kind of in the middle of volume 2, so sorry about that. But and also I kind of was planning on having this finished by the end of last year. Happy New Year, by the way. But that didn't work out, so we're making do with today, and then from next week onwards, if all goes well, then we should be moving over the read-alongs to Tuesdays and Thursdays, because that way I can have a more consistent schedule with the read-alongs, and I won't have to constantly be what do you call it, canceling them because I am going away for a weekend or something like that. But yeah, also just let me know if the audio is okay. It should be, but I'm never 100% sure. And it sounds like there's some bad weather kicking up, so I hope that's not an issue throughout. Hello, hope you had a good New Year. I did. It was a lot of fun. I hope you also had a good New Year. Let's hope this year is a good one. But yeah. Okay, I think I'm gonna give it like 2 more minutes in case more people want to join, and then we can get started. Hi, and thank you for letting me know about the audio. um, but yeah, I'm very sad to be like putting Mordu on hold, but I'm also just very keen to go back to Urha for a bit, because like volume 3 has been staring at me from my shelf. So yeah. Um, anyway, I have my tea here with me. We're gonna do the 10 minute break halfway through, so around half past um, the next hour, and then we're gonna keep going until we finish chapter 50, so we might go a little bit late as well. Sorry about that. And yeah, I can't think of anything else that I might need to let you guys know about. But yeah, there is also still a poll up for what time to do the live streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you haven't voted on that yet, and you wanna like make yourself known, you can just check the community tab. It should be the second to last post that was posted. But yeah, with all oopsie, let me not break something. With all of that said, I think we can basically just get started. As far as I remember, we were at chapter 45. Was it 46? I think it might have been 46. 46. Okay, let me just pull up the chat as well. So we're sorted. I did not read as many books as I wanted to read last year, but the read-alongs really did help me read more than I otherwise would have. Okay, I was just at 46. I don't know why, it just randomly decides to scroll back at moments like this. Okay, so we ended off with her dad could only pick her up after he got off work. Their classes ended around 4:30. Her dad called her. She was still in the drawing classroom then, a little past 5. When he came over, he couldn't find her. Right, we were at that. Damn it. Okay. Chapter 46, Humbert, 13. Impossible, impossible. It was after midnight. The Children's Palace's administrator had evidently been yanked out of dreams. His drowsy eyes were swollen up to his brow ridge, his shirt's buttons were unmatched, and he was shuffling along in a pair of slippers. How many children pass through here all day? We have the strictest security. Even parents have to sign in when they come in. We have a 360-degree security camera coverage. No blind spots. You're saying human traffickers are involved? Is that a joke? I guarantee it with my own head. It's absolutely impossible. Unless the child picked up and left on her own, then even if aliens have invaded the Earth, they still couldn't get into our school. Well, clearly something went wrong. Anyway, color. Deputy Tao, we just used the tracking software on Zhang Yuqian's cell phone to remotely turn on the device. We've already located its approximate position. It's near White Peach Lane. White Peach Lane? Taran stared. Why would it be White Peach Lane? White Peach Lane was approximately 3 steps away from the Children's Palace. It was a well-known small commodities distribution center in the city. Quite a few online stores did business there, often working through the night. There were clothes wholesalers who those who sold small trinkets by the kilogram, wholesalers of large and small packages scattered all around. The street was full of pickpockets and swindlers. It was bustling and disordered. For a child sneaking away to have fun, White Peach Lane was too disordered, and there was really nothing fun there. For a child abducting perverts, White Peach Lane was too full of people and eyes, the risk too high. Isn't it possible that her phone was dumped there, though? Taran pinched the bridge of his nose. Slow down, let me think. Before he had finished, Chen Chen's mother had pushed aside 2 criminal policemen and run over. Officer Tao, I was listening. Have they located Chen Chen's phone? Where is she? Lang Chao, just arrived after racing through the night, quickly came over to Block and quietly soothed her. I clearly said to her, I told her every day to be careful when she goes out, not to go along with strangers, not to go to unfamiliar places, to get word to an adult if anything goes wrong. I said it so much I thought I was being annoying myself. If my mouth were made of iron, I'd have worn a layer off. Oh, that must be so frustrating as well, because, like, there's nothing more you can do than just try and caution them, and if that doesn't work, then, like, what would? Chang Ning wiped away tears with one hand and held her with the other. Aunt, don't be like that. Seeing Chang Ning wiping away tears, Taran's mild fretfulness rose sharply. Char, you stay here to go through the security camera footage. You guys come with me to the White Peach Lane. The police car set out through the night like a shooting star, its 4 wheels almost leaving the ground. In 5 or 6 minutes, they'd covered the 3 stops' worth of distance. The season was about to change, and the first collections of autumn's clothes would soon be hitting the shelves. White Peach Lane was so crowded it was almost. Sorry, White. Yeah. White Peach Lane was so crowded it was about to turn into White Fur Lane. The throngs of merchants creating a local heat island in the city with their breath. Going back and forth among this crowd, within 3 minutes a person's forehead would be covered in sweat. Taran looked around blankly and asked the technician, Can you narrow the range a little? It's just approaching the west end of the White Peach Lane, came the technician's voice over Taran's earbud. They haven't noticed that the phone is on yet. Deputy Tao, you have to hurry. Taran gave his subordinates a look, and they immediately split up in a well-coordinated fashion. approaching the west side of the White Peach Lane from a different direction. Taran ran over, gaze sweeping over every person who went past him. Garbage trucks, carts, human-sized bags. No place that could conceal a person was overlooked. They were all searched one by one. Although no one had sounded a police siren, the quick search still instantly raised a nervous atmosphere on White Peach Lane. Suddenly, the technician's alert came over Taran's earbud. Deputy Tao, they've noticed something. The phone's been turned off. Damn it. Taran's strained gaze subconsciously swept his surroundings and happened to fall beside a garbage can. A small, skinny man inadvertently looked up. Their gazes met. The man paused for a second, then got a clear look at Taran's uniform. He threw down the thing in his hand, took his heels, and ran. Took to his heels. I was like, what, is he wearing high heels? That makes more sense. Took to his heels and ran. What he'd thrown down had been a white cell phone, the back of it stuck full of stickers. Taran's pupils contracted. Stop. Up ahead, a wholesaler was just pushing a cart past. The man familiarly stepped up on the side of the cart like a monkey, accompanied by the surprised cry of the woman pushing the cart. The clothes on the cart came falling down like a landslide. A motorcyclist moving with difficulty alongside immediately braked to avoid the stuff that had fallen under his wheels, then let out a torrent of abuse. In the chaos, the man had already put a foot up on the guard railing around the road. He went over in a flash and was about to dart across the street when a tall and surly policeman leapt out from a nearby small street and grabbed the back of his collar as if lifting a chick. With a twist of his arm, he had the man pressed down to the ground. Taran turned back and picked up the white cell phone. He turned it back on. The background was Chinchin's cat-faced selfie. I don't remember this happening in the show. I'm a little bit stressed. Because I feel like in the show they didn't, they saw him maybe, but they didn't capture him, or I'm probably just misremembering. He let out a long breath and went over to the man, who was already under control. Where is she? The man's nose had been injured when he went down. He raised his head, his face brightly colored. He looked at Taran with an entreating expression and said on a sobbing note, I was wrong, Mr. Government Man. I'll mend my ways this time. I won't do it again. Ow! Gently, please. Taran grabbed him by the collar. Where's the girl? Huh? At this time, Lowell and Joe had already driven to the gates of the children's palace. Seeing the familiar license plate, Lang Chao bounded over. Boss, what's happening? Where's Taran? Saying this, Lowell and Joe looked back and waved towards the car's interior. Sit in the car for now. The person in the car wasn't having this. He got out, hoisting his arm. Lang Chao stared in spite of herself. Wow, President Fei, what's with the armor? A little accident. Feidu looked at the buildings around the children's palace. Is there news? Hi. Before Lang Chao could answer, a police car braked noisily at the children's palace's gates. Taran and a few criminal policemen got out, their faces grim. Seeing Lo and Joe throw him a questioning look, Taran shook his head. Chinchin's phone was stolen. An old fox, a habitual offender. He's just been released from detention. He says there was a girl tying her shoes by the road. She put her phone down on the street planter next to her. When her shoes were tied, she left and forgot the phone there, so he only picked it up. I'm guessing it's the girl that took Chin away and not Chin herself, because otherwise he's just outright lying. Happy New Year, Janae. Happy New Year to you too. Hi, and also Happy New Year to you as well. Oh, goodness. Okay, I'm so stressed. I'm excited for the end of this, but also worried, and I don't want it to end at the same time. It's complicated. um, which street? When did he take it? Said Lowenjo. It must be right around the children's palace. Turan raked a hand through his hair, his forehead tightly furrowed. We found 7 or 8 phones ready to be resold on that joker, all today's accomplishments. He's not sure of the concrete times and locations himself. Go, Feidu asked beside him. What are you panicking about? What's wrong? I asked Chengming. Chen Chen was wearing a floral patterned dress today. Turan's face looked awful, and his voice was as quick and anxious. If it really is, if the killers kidnapped 2 children within 5 days, the frequency is too high. It shows that there's a 100% chance Chutong is. Chen Chen was kidnapped around 5, and now it's already been over 7 hours. She may very well also. Hush. Feiru patted him on the arm. Settle down a little. What do I have to settle down about? Turan laughed bitterly. I'm not the child's parent. I haven't dared to tell Chinchin's family my guesses yet. You said that suspicious individual last time was an old man, right? Are you sure? I'm not sure. I was too far away, said Feiru. Chinchin is a sensitive girl. When I warned her to be careful last time, I scared her. She wouldn't have forgotten so soon. I believe she wouldn't let down her guard, even around old people and acquaintances. Even if someone had tricked her into leaving, she wouldn't have forgotten to send word to her family. Deputy Tao, we found the child on the drawing classroom security camera. Okay, let me see. Hello all, Happy New Year. Hi! And also Happy New Year to you. Yeah, no, we are here. Unfortunately, we are here. Turan swiftly turned around and was about to go. Luwenjo put a hand on her shoulder. Leave it to me. You take responsibility for talking to the little girl's parents. See if there has been anything unusual about the child lately. Oh my word, sorry. Whether the parents have offended anyone, how their family relationships stand. We can't overlook any possibilities. Feidu leaned to one side. Do you need my help? Lowenjo hesitated. In what capacity? Feidu shamelessly answered. Friends and family. Lowenjo held up a finger and pointed at him with a trace of warning, but in the end he didn't tell him to go cool his heels. Oh my word. Okay, I can't believe, like, in the middle of this they still find time to get on each other's nerves. But, like, kind of in a flirty way, I would say. The drawing room security camera was very clear. Around 4:30, the other children were successively picked up by their parents, and Chinchin sat in the classroom alone, indifferently flipping through an album the teacher had left. From time to time, she looked out the window. In 10 minutes, she spent over 5 of them looking seriously towards the window. Uncertainly, Lowenjo said, "What you looking at?" "A mirror?" said Lang Chao. Luanjo looked bewildered. Little girls use glass window panes as mirrors, you know. You can look at the scenery just by turning your head. No need to turn your whole body or come closer. She's also using her pen to twist at the end of her hair, Lang Chao said. All girls understand this. Huh? While she was speaking, she saw Chinchin suddenly sit up straight, slightly leaving her chair. Then she smiled, stood up, and quickly packed up her things and ran off. The timestamp in the corner of the recording was around 4:40. Sorry. Don't know how long I'm gonna be able to stay up, but good luck getting any sleep, your first-time readers. Oh yay! Oh my word. Oh goodness. Um. Lorenzo immediately looked up to check the drawing classroom's position. The window was right across from the playground. The security camera on the building closest to the playground was quickly searched. You could see Chin running quickly out of the classroom building towards a group of children gathered on the playground. The camera was a little distant. It only caught her lingering briefly among the crowd of children. Then she walked towards the camera blind spot with some other girls, quickly leaving the frame. Of course she did, because nothing can be easy ever. Judging from the scene, they were heading towards a row of red buildings at the Children's Palace's northwest corner. What's this? Wendra asked, frowning. Didn't the administrators say there were no blind spots? The row of buildings in the northwest corner are public toilets. There aren't many cameras installed. Why the hell didn't you say so earlier? Determine the identities of those children on the tape. Question them immediately. Bring the map. The Children's Palace's northwest corner adjoined a little park, very sloppily managed. The outer lawn had been crushed all out of sorts by residents taking walks. The footprints and dog poo evident. No one went to the depth of the park. However, the vegetation was overgrown, and the mosquitoes were like bombers. That's a weird comparison. The police dogs were swiftly in position, flashlights beaming and barks rising and falling. Fedu listened in as Taran spoke with Chinchin's father. I came around 5:05. I'd arranged it with her. First, I called her from the door. When I heard her phone was off, I thought it had run out of battery and signed it in with a caretaker and went to look for her. But she wasn't in the classroom. I didn't think she could have gone missing. It's the Children's Palace, no different from a high school. I thought she'd gone to the bathroom or to play somewhere. I was pretty angry too. I waited in the drawing classroom for a while. When the security guards started to inspect the doors and windows and turned off the lights, I started to panic a little and went to ask around and have a female teacher check for her in the restrooms. Her parents' worst nightmare. Chinchin's mom tugged on her shoulder, her face covered in tears. Is she that kind of child, running off without a word when she clearly knew a grown-up was waiting for her? Well, what kind of dad are you? Anything goes wrong and you want to blame your daughter right away. If anything at all happened to the child, I don't think that is fair, because I think most adults would rather believe that their child just accidentally miscommunicated than immediately jump to the worst conclusion. Even though, like, a part of you might jump to the worst conclusion, I feel like for the most part you're just like, oh, don't react, she's probably just done this or that. I don't think it's necessary to call him a bad dad for that. Damn. Chin's dad was reeling from her pulling. He shut his mouth tightly and didn't make a sound. Taran and Cheng Ning on the one to the left and one to the right, quickly separated the two of them. Fedu suddenly said, I heard that child tracking systems on phones can be used to turn the device on remotely. The officers must have located Chinchin's phone like that earlier. Why didn't you think of turning her phone on then? I thought of it. Chinchin's dad looked on the point of collapse. He resisted desperately, forcing down her shuddering breaths. But there was something wrong with the software. It kept telling me that the remote functioning link had failed. I'm not used to using that thing. We found Chinchin's phone, said Taram. The battery is at least half full. It must have already been stolen by the pickpocket the first time you called. Could the child have discovered the phone was missing and gone to look for it? It's a possibility. The risk of stealing a phone in a children's palace is too high. Fedu shook his head. The likelihood isn't great. She must have left by herself for some reason. It was half an hour and more from the time class ended. to the time you'd arranged a pickup. She may have gone to buy snacks in the shops around here, or to play with her classmates. It's all possible, but ordinarily she would stay within a kilometer radius. That way, she could come back to the door of the children's palace as soon as she got your call. Have you taught her what to do when she has something stolen outside? Yes. Chungling looked at Taran and quietly said, I was just joking with her a few days ago, saying that from now on if anything happened, she could go to Taran Gaga. She knows how to phone the police, and if that won't work, she knows how to go back to school and find a security guard. Taran patted the back of her hand and gave her a consoling look. He quickly said, The children's palace is surrounded by crowded neighborhoods. It was the peak evening rush. It would have been fairly safe, except for the depth of the little park at the northwest corner. Dun dun dun. Um, yeah, but the mom is on edge as well. It's her anxiety speaking. Yeah, like I understand that, but I can't help but still feel bad for the dad. Unfortunately, her reaction and like the blaming of the other spouse isn't uncommon in these kinds of situations, but it still sucks. No, she wouldn't. As if seeking comfort, Cheng Ling grabbed him by the waist. Chen Chen is very timid. She doesn't dare to go to sleep alone after she's watched a thriller. She wouldn't have gone on her own where there weren't any people. Peidu suddenly said, What if it wasn't on her own, but with her classmates? All of them stared at him. Peidu walked up in front of Chen Chen's father. Around what time was it the first time you tried to remotely turn on her phone? 6. After 6, said Chen Chen's dad. Her teacher reminded me about it. Peidu said, How did you operate it? Could you demonstrate it for me? Boss, the teacher over there just contacted the children on the security camera footage for us. Lang Chao pushed aside a cluster of branches blocking her eyes and quickly went over to Lu Wenzhou. They went to the restrooms to change their clothes, then went to the little park together to take photographs. Yeah, that sounds accurate. There was something I wanted to say now. What was it? Oh, I actually really like the way that this is written because Priest manages to make it feel like there's a crowd and every group is doing their own thing, and there's like random check-ins from Lang Chao, and then we cut back to the more in-depth discussions going on there. It's just a really nice way to make the scene feel busy without too much description. Um, Take photographs. A student in the photography class had homework to hand in and arranged for some girls to model for her. Some children brought clothes especially to put on for the photographs. They did that for a while. When they finished with the photographs, Zhang Yichen had to go back to the children's palace. They parted at the gates of the park, and no one knows where Zhang Yichen went after that. Lu Wenzhou took a deep breath. This was bad. If Jinjin had discovered her phone was gone after parting from her friends, the child's first thought would have been of the place where they'd taken their photographs. She would have returned to the deserted depth of the little park. But the little park wasn't the street. It was hard to follow what had happened afterwards. Boss, what do we do? Said Lang Chao. Lo Wenjul muttered to himself for a moment, then fished out his phone and called the person responsible for keeping an eye on Shu Wenchao. Report on Shu Wenchao's movements today. Shu Wenchao let Deputy Tao copy his vehicle location record. He only left the bureau at 5:45. He drove 30-some minutes to a fast food restaurant, got a takeaway, and went home. He hasn't moved since. Rowanjo quietly asked, Are you sure he's been home the whole time? I'm sure. He hasn't drawn the curtains. He's been sitting in his study and hasn't left our sight. What's wrong, boss? He hasn't drawn the curtains and he hasn't left your side. It very much feels like he knows you're watching him, so he's being very strategic. But that doesn't mean he couldn't have asked someone else, as we know. Boss, either we suspect the wrong person, said Lang Chao, or this case is unrelated to Chu Tong's disappearance. What the hell? Are there really this many perverts in the world? Let's not answer that question. Before Lu Wenjuo had spoken, his phone rang. The caller ID said fissure. We shall see what that means when we look at the footnotes. What is it? On the other end, Mr. Fisher calmly said, the pilferer didn't steal the phone directly from Chin. There's a point to his sophistry. Where did that pronunciation come from? The girl who put the phone down really did forget it. Uh-huh. Lo and Joel quickly followed up. How do you know? Around 6, Mr. Zhang tried to use the remote function of the child's okay, there's something missing here. Tried to use the remote function to turn the child's phone on, but the remote link failed. I think there was no problem with the way he operated it. Under the circumstances, either one of them didn't have a signal, or the battery had been removed from the child's phone. Feidu paused briefly. There was no need for the pilferer to remove the battery and put it back in, and he wouldn't know what software was on the phone. I can only think of one possibility. While Chen was changing her clothes or posing, one of the children in the group hid her phone. When Chen noticed, the child suggested she go back to the little path to look for it and volunteer to go with her. She would naturally have trusted her own friend and also told that person that her phone had a remote system. You're saying that a child, likely another girl, planned this thing? Luanjo sucked in a breath. She not only kidnapped her friend, she also deliberately tossed the phone to mislead the police. That's too. Feidu gave a light, unreadable laugh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Everyone's a professional and doing their thing, less like a fancy and more like an ideal in real life work. Yeah. Joe immediately remembered the teenager back then with his dark, ice-cold gaze and a bit back the rest of his words. Why are you thinking along those lines? Because I warned her to be careful of grown-ups. Familiar ones, strange ones, men and women, even old people, said Feidu. The only thing I didn't tell her her the only thing I didn't tell her was to be careful of children like her. Why couldn't it be a child? Girls just over 10 were like flower buds, beautiful and delicate, ignorant and fragile. The whole world saw them as potential victims, as if they were lacking in wit and intelligence, and however much you protected them, it wouldn't be enough. How could anyone suspect them of committing a crime? Lorenzo hung up the phone and with Feidu and turned to Lang Chao. When the Children's Palace teacher made those phone calls just now, was there a call where a parent didn't pick up at first? Even when arresting a knife-wielding murderer barehanded, Lang Chao didn't look so horrified. I think there was one. Oh, sorry. I'm stressed. I'm very stressed. Why did it have to be so late? Like, I have to go to sleep after this. Chapter 47, Humbert 14. Hello, is this student Su Lu Zhang? I'm teacher Wang from the Children's Palace, the one who issued your registration cards when school started. Do you remember? I remember, Teacher Wang. It's so late. You aren't sleeping yet? Are your mom and dad nearby? I want to say a few words to you, but I need to have your mom and dad agree first. Dad hasn't come home yet. Mom is sick. She's sleeping and I didn't want to wake her up. Why didn't you just tell me? Oh, all right. I'll just ask you a few questions. It's like this. There's a child in an art class called Zhang Yu Chen. She went missing after school and let out today. Someone said they saw you two playing together. Do you remember where you saw her for the last time? Silence. Hello. Student Su Luoran, are you still there? I'm here. Sorry, teacher, the signal is bad here. You were saying the art classes student, Zhang Yuchen, the one who's very short with her hair in a little braid. Oh, we went to the little park to play together a while. There were lots of us from other classes too. Afterwards, we all left. We didn't know where she went. Really? All right then. You go to bed soon. Don't be late for class tomorrow. Okay, teacher. Get to call and tell us. I'm worried. Young Charles turned off the recorder of the phone call. Because there was no guardian with the child, and because her explanation more or less matched with the others, the teacher didn't ask any more. What do you think of this dialogue? I still think it's hard to believe, but when I think about it, if the suspect is a child, that explains why Chu Tong would be willing to get into a stranger's car in an extremely frightening situation, and why Deputy Tao and I couldn't find anything on all of those security tapes. It's too horrifying. Luanzhou pushed Luo Zhang's personal information in front of her. I'll show you something more horrifying. I'm stressed. The name filled in as Su Luzhang's emergency contact was Su Shalan. The relationship was mother and daughter. A few police cars arrived, swift as the wind, as Su Luzhang's recorded addresses. It was a fairly well-appointed estate in the middle of the night, all was still. The dozing door guard was startled awake and looked blankly at the ID in Lo and Joe's hand. Do you have a mother and daughter surnamed Sue living here? The security guard stared so hard that he went cross-eyed. I, I, I don't know. I just came. Go to the property management and get the previously recorded register of owners, Lowenjo said quickly. Everyone be careful. If the girl really is the suspect we're looking for, the circumstances will be very unusual. She'll be more unstable than the average adult. We absolutely must not provoke her. In case the victims are still alive, our actions can't be allowed to lead to any unimaginable consequences. Captain Law, it's 401. If everyone's got it, then let's go. I'm so stressed. And then there just had to be thunder as well. It's just lovely, thank you. I read this during lockdown at 2 in the morning. Don't know how I survived, I can imagine. Horror films could not hold a candle to this. Whoa. Okay, let's see where this goes. If everyone's got it, then let's go. In the fourth floor corridor, a crowd of people concealed themselves in the corner of the stairs. Luanzhou lifted his chin, indicating for Lang Chao to knock on the door. Lang Chao rubbed at her frosty face, which looked as if it had been injected with Botox, twisting it into the kindest and gentlest expression it had ever worn. She went up to the door and knocked. Is there anyone home? No one answered. Meng Chao felt rather harassed. She was used to acting the fiend. Displaying a kindly aspect wasn't really in her line. She squeezed a soft and gentle voice out of her throat. Is there anyone home? I'm the tenant who just moved in upstairs. My apartment seems to have sprung a bit of a leak. I'm sorry, I hope it hasn't fallen down. As before, there wasn't a sound. An accompanying technician furtively passed her a reverse peephole. Young Chow attached it to the peephole, bent slightly, and peered inside. There was no one at the entrance. She could see to the living room at the end of the entry hall. Can you imagine if someone was looking into the people and you looked into the reverse side of the people and you just had the eyes staring back at you? I don't know why the idea of that kind of freaks me out. The apartment was dim. The only light was the center of the living room. Looking closely, Yang Chao found that the source of the light was an incense altar. On each side was electric red candles and altar lamps, laid out in front of a black and white photograph of the deceased. The woman's somber face reflected a bit of the light from the incense altar, coldly exchanging a look with her. A shiver leapt up Lang Chao's spine, and she subconsciously backed away. Ruinjo gave her a questioning look. Lang Chao gave a fierce shudder and hastily shook her head. She raised her hand and knocked on the door once again. Anyone there? If you'd rather not open the door, you can just answer me. I just want to ask whether you have a leak. The awkward silence stretched out in the small corridor. Lowenjo suddenly reached out a hand and made Lang Chao back away. Open the door. Lang Chao stared. Boss. There was no evidence and no witnesses. They hadn't even been able to obtain a warrant. All they had was subjective guesses. It's all right, Lowenjo said heavily. If there's a problem, I'll take responsibility. Open it. Several criminal policemen and technicians swarmed up and had the door pried open in a flash. Their indescribable odor surged up and hit them full in the face. It was a grotesque combination of incense and candle smell, mixed with the stuffiness of midsummer humidity and long unopened windows, fermented so that the sense of smell somehow registered it as almost an odor of decay. And there was no one in the apartment. We can be glad, because it could have also had an odor of decay because of the one girl being dead. The apartment wasn't large, 50 or 60 square meters at most. The regulation one living room and one bedroom. But Su Shaolin's black and white portrait keeping watch there alone gave it an odd sense of void. The portrait of the deceased faced a double bed arranged in the living room. The silk bedspread was darkly colored. At the head of the bed was a bottle of dark nail polish and half a pack of cigarettes. The bedroom next door was a little smaller and looked like a place where a little girl lived. A row of dull-eyed cheap Western dolls was arranged on a small single bed, sitting shoulder to shoulder, facing the door together. All of them wore floral patterned dresses. Great! We love it. We love it. We're not terrified at all. But also the fact that she kind of had the dolls lined up like they're guarding the door to her room. Okay. Heavens! Meng Chao pulled open the wardrobe in the girl's room. Inside, without exception, everything was floral patterned dresses. Even stranger, the designs on these clothes matched the designs on the dolls. Gooseflesh stood up on Nang Chao's arms. Mine too. Is this the place for a person to live? Lorenzo put on gloves and rooted around in the wardrobe. Suddenly he found a small box among the piles of clothes. He found the latch and snapped open the lid of the box. The sound of furry leaves was set free from the box's crevices. It was a music box. Presumably the power was running low, making the piano music a little off key, seemingly sluggish and weird. Then the surrounding criminal policemen got a clear look at what was inside. Ang Chao covered her mouth. Inside the box was a naked doll with one arm and one leg removed, the limbs laid out on strips of bloody cloth. Strips of cloth were cotton, the lively pattern of small white flowers opening cluster after cluster. This is Chitong's dress. Her parents showed us a photograph of her wearing that dress at home. I remember the quality of the dress wasn't very good. Some of the pattern had gotten into the side seam. It looked very uneven. With difficulty, Lang Chao pointed at a strip of cloth with stitches on it. Just like that. His face grim. Luonjo closed the box's lid. Take it back to be examined. Then he turned and went into the bathroom. The damp bathroom had grown an abundance of mold, ooh, which was aggressively spreading everywhere. In front of the carved mirror, missing a corner, were two toothbrushes, a row of many-colored lipsticks, and some used cotton swabs that hadn't been thrown away. What did she say to the teacher then? Luanjo muttered to himself, walking around in a circle. Mom is sick. She's been sleeping, and I can't wake her up. Dad hasn't come home yet. But there are no signs of a man living here. What dad was she talking about? Are you sure that phone call earlier was taken around here? Captain Moore, I found the phone she took the call on. A criminal policeman cautiously picked up an elderly, heavily scratched up cell phone from under a small coffee table in the living room. After going through it, he reported the teacher's phone call is in the recent calls, so the girl had been there. Lo and Joe swiftly turned and walked over, but where is she now? Sulu was a child, after all. She wouldn't have known how many security cameras in the children's palace had. It was likely she hadn't expected she would be filmed at the playground. Then, having taken the teacher's phone call in the middle of the night, would she have realized in a panic that she had exposed herself? What would she do? And most importantly, where was Zhang Yichen? Get your pillow? Let me get another one. Problem is, it's possible that she'll try and kill Zhang Yichen. Obviously, we had Zhang Yichen surviving in the show, but because of censorship, I feel like there's a slight chance that maybe she didn't actually survive in the novel. So I'm still nervous. Um, when Tong had gone missing out in the wilderness, the person who had taken her had worn size 42 shoes and been able to drive a car. That couldn't have been such a small girl. That meant that Sulu Zhang's mysterious dad was very likely her accomplice. It was evident that Zhang Yuchen wasn't in the small apartment with its offerings to the dead. Then could she be with the accomplice? If that was the case, then would Su Luojan have run over to find her accomplice when she'd been alerted by the phone call? If Chen Chen was still alive, would they act recklessly because of this, freeing themselves or Chen Chen ahead of time? Could the child live until daybreak? The midsummer night was like a piece of caramel melting in the heat, thick and sticky. The girl ran quickly through the silent streets, the clattering of her own footsteps like a shadowing monster. Around her were the occasional movements of the stray cats and dogs, all of them making her quiver with terror. The girl charged right into old-fashioned small two-story. These so-called small two-stories were a type of building from 20 or 30 years ago, built in a row, usually only 2 or 3 floors high. Each small building had a yard in front of it, with just about enough space in each yard to plant a grapevine. At first glance, they looked something like villas, but in fact, space inside was very cramped, and the conditions were poor. A few families usually shared one little yard. Living there was very inconvenient, and once summer came, there was even sorry, and one summer came, and there was every evil imaginable, the wind and rain seeping in. They were supposed to be torn down soon. The girl tried twice before she succeeded in getting the key into the lock. She rushed in and grabbed the phone by the door, quickly dialing a number. The call connected. Lengthy dial tones sounded, each one knocking on the pit of her stomach. She unconsciously reached out her long nails and restlessly picked at the mottled wall. But after a dozen rings, the call automatically disconnected. The girl's eyes opened wide, as if she couldn't believe that the other person would actually dare not to take her call. She didn't give up, quickly dialing the number again. As before, no one picked up. This girl was very a petite. Sorry, this girl was very pretty, with apricot stone eyes, round cheekbones, and a sharp little chin. She looked more like a Western doll than those cheap goods did. Innocence and charm combined in her, perfectly complementing each other. But soon frightened hatred climbed up her little face. Without warning, she suddenly slammed the telephone against the wall and screamed hysterically. So I'm assuming the reason why the guy can't or isn't answering is because he can't because he's being watched. Um, mm, just then there was a weeping sound in the dark room, like the sobs of a small animal. The frantic girl swiftly turned her head, look expressionlessly turning on the wall light. The person tied up in the corner curled away from the light. Through her tears, she gave a disbelieving look. This was the vanished Chin Chin. At this time, Chin Chin's family was still waiting in a state of anxiety at the children's palace. Taran went out to take a phone call. When he returned, he avoided Chin Chin's family and whispered something to Feidu. You're saying she had an adult male accomplice? Feidu frowned faintly. You mean, first they used the girl to entice Chin Chin into the little path, then the man appeared, took her unaware, and carried her off? What is it? Said Taran. No, I was just thinking there was something strange. Feidu hoisted his unfortunate arm and turned round in place, talking quietly to himself. Too strange. When Mr. Zhang called his daughter just after attempting to use the remote software to turn on Chinchin's phone failed, which shows that Chinchin was already under the criminal's control. But the criminal hadn't started to deal with the follow-up arrangements yet. When the girl lost the phone on purpose, it must have been at least after 6. Why? An adult man, even half immobilized, definitely wouldn't need to spend an hour getting a child like Chinchin under control. Feidu's steps paused, and after all this was finished, the girl put the battery back into Chinchin's phone and left it on purpose for someone to take. Why was that? Since she'd already removed the battery, taking the phone apart and dropping the pieces on her way would have been safe and convenient. The police dogs wouldn't have been able to find them. Um, Need a hand holding circle right now? Mm-hmm. Yes, very much. So what I'm guessing is that, and I feel like I don't know if this is just me remembering what happened in episode 8 and not remembering that that's what I'm remembering, or if this is just completely wild and ridiculous speculation. But what I'm guessing is because the police were following the guy, he couldn't help her clean up the way that he usually would, which is why Chin Chin is still alive and things are slower and easier to track than they usually would be. Um, And the explanation of a temporary of temporary and the explanation of temporarily turning away the police force's line of sight didn't work, because even a child would have seen enough television dramas to know that more than one police officer would be handling the case, and it wouldn't be so easily distracted. And if the person who picked up or stolen the phone had happened to see her, wouldn't that increase the risk? Is there a possibility that kidnapping the little girl in the West Ridge was a cooperative crime, but this time for some reason the man wasn't there, only the girl, and she had to spend more time? Instead, grabbing Seidu's shoulder, the girl's physical abilities are limited. She can't accomplish a sadistic killing on her own and can't complete the recording, but she knows that Chinchin's phone had remote software and that her parents will definitely try and use it to find the child. She's covertly tormenting the parents, accomplishing the same end as the recording by other means. Give you hope, make you search desperately, then make you lose hope. Only she hadn't expected that the timing would be a little off. The time she delayed was longer than she'd imagined. If that's how it is, she couldn't have dragged away a girl about the same size as her on her own. She could only have tricked her away. From far off, Feidu looked at the mother again, crying bitterly. When Chen Chen clearly knew that her dad would be looking for her, why would she agree to go with them? Taran took a deep breath and quietly said, I didn't bring my phone today because my house is closer than the children's palace. Your dad may already be at the school looking for you, and it would be easy to miss each other if you're both looking. You can come to my house and talk. The distance must have been very short, much closer than the children's palace. The distance a child would think was comfortable and convenient. Turan pulled over the map. A kilometer. No, within 500 meters. There was an old residential area about to be torn down less than one intersection away from the little path's other gates. Wait a minute, said Turan. Why do I think I've heard this address somewhere? Lo and Joel and the others had turned Sulujan's house upside down, primarily looking for any masculine products, searching for a trace of the mystery man. Lang Chao opened the door and turned it over, finding that among other things it contained residential certificates, ID cards, school entry notices, and other such documents and credentials. She only picked up a set of medical records and flipped through it, giving the rest of the items a rough look and quickly dropping them to one side, spreading them over the ground. Lorenzo's gaze swept over them. After a moment, as if he suddenly thought of something, his gaze fixed, and he crouched down and picked up the certificates of property ownership, two of them. One of them was for this one bedroom, one living room apartment, and the other was for a building and some factories residential quarters that had been converted to private ownership during the housing reforms. The house was older than Su Xiaolan. Xiao Chao'er, check this for me, said Luo Wenzhou. 20 years ago, when Su Xiaolan was little, what was the address recorded for her? Yang Chao didn't understand his reasons, but she instinctively complied and went to check at once. Before she'd found anything, a phone call came from the criminal policeman Luo Wenzhou had assigned to keep an eye on Shu Wen Chao. Captain Wu planted a listening device in Shu Wen Chao's room. He just got two phone calls in a row, and he definitely heard them, but he didn't pick up. Do you think he's noticed he's being watched? Oh, we've also found a phone number that called him. Um, sorry. Oh, we've also found the phone number the calls came from. It's a landline. The address is Children's Road Trading Company, Intersection Unit 3, said Luo and Zhou. The surveilling policeman was surprised. Captain Luo, how did you know? At the same time, Yang Chao charged in. Boss, when Susha cooperated with the investigation, the victim as a victim back then is the address she provided in her contact information. Lauren just said, "Come on." Yay! Yay! There's hope. I probably shouldn't be getting too hopeful, but there's hope. Okay. If only the police in my country was the sufficient same. The drama made this part with Law and Joel leading the pack and collaborating. Um, yeah, I hear my beloved is leading, and it's much more balanced. Yeah, I really love both of them for different reasons, like both versions for different reasons. Okay, so we're on to chapter 48, but it is an hour in, so I'm quickly gonna um take my 10-minute break and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna finish it come hell or high water. So this might still take a while, but I will see you guys in 10 minutes time at 42 past. Okay. Hi guys, sorry about that. It took longer than it was supposed to because my dog was playing with a lychee pip and it completely distracted me. Hello ADHD, so sorry about that. Um, but yeah, okay, let us get back to reading. Let me just pull the thing up again. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Toto is the best. He really is. But I do feel like, even though I get what you mean about the fact that like the in the live action it was kind of more led by Law and Joe, it did still feel like Taran was the hero of the hour because it was all surrounding the family of the girl that he really liked. So I think they still somehow managed to pull that off, in my opinion. Um, really is. The local police everywhere is pretty sloppy, and even in Mordu, it's efficient only because speciality teams like Asadi is doing the job. And Asadi is on the job only because it's a continuing crime of a very serious nature. Yeah, fair. Okay, so let us keep going. Please let me know if the audio is still fine. I hope it is. I have new tea because it's a little bit of a long night. But yeah, okay. We technically have three chapters left. We'll see if we can get. I mean, we'll see how long it takes to get through them. Okay, cool. All fine. Yay. Thank you. Okay, chapter 48, Humbert Humbert 15. Chin had been woken up by the press of the cold floor. At first, she didn't understand what had happened. She only remembered going home with a little Jie from the photography class. Her house really was very close, just around the corner from the park. Though it looked rather destitute, it was still fairly tidy. The telephone hadn't been very useful, the connection always bad. The little Jie had sworn up and down that she only had to yank on the wire to fix it, and had also brought her a chilled drink and a bottle. With the straw in her mouth, Chin had sipped mango juice and thought that she was perhaps being too much of a bother. She'd been wavering over whether she should say, "I should go back to school" instead, but before she could speak she felt as though she'd been yanked out of her body, her limbs losing control. She'd struggled a few times, and after that she didn't know anything. Okay, Chin braid had come, um, sorry. Chin braid had come unravelled. She was covered in dust, and her limbs were bound. She must have been violently dragged over the floor, because all her exposed skin had been scraped raw and ached sharply. The duct tape stuck over her lips had a rubbery taste. She curled up with difficulty, desperately trying to hide. Sulozhan was a few steps away, looking loftily down on her. Sulajan, sorry, I keep saying it wrong. Sulajan had her head tilted, one long strand of hair falling from her temple. She twisted it around one long, slim finger next to her cheek. Her cold eyes, like those of some dangerous, cold-blooded animal. Then she pursed the corners of her mouth, sneered at Chinchin. "You're really despicable." Chinchin trembled violently. "I despise your type of clueless toady the most. You're all scheming, I'm not going to say that word, at your age, relying on on throwing tantrums, always needing someone to take you places, getting anything you want. At the least, at the least a little thing like you act like you're a little kid, like the whole world has to accommodate you." As she spoke, Sulojan bent down and got a curved chopper out of the shoe cupboard at the door. The metal tool was a little too heavy for her thin hands. The knife scraped against the old wooden cupboard with a rustle. Oh, okay. But also, like, you've got to wonder where she heard all these weird words. I mean, we kind of know probably the guy, but it is like it's just a very grim thought to think that someone would say that to a kid for them to parrot it to someone else. Um, Slowly burrowing deeper into the blankets, yes. I feel like just get a pillow as well. You might need one. That is my solution for everything. Chin Chin struggled violently. Her mouth was sealed. She produced weak little whimpering sounds like a small animal's, her face turning red from the strain as she fought to struggle free of her bonds. If he won't come, I can do it myself. Sulojan suddenly flared up, lifting the knife and charging towards Chin Chin. Under extreme terror, a person's latent strength can be limitless. In that moment, despite her bound condition, Chin Chin somehow found the strength to get the floor under her feet. Before she could stand, the knife had already drawn near. Chin Chin closed her eyes and threw herself forward, scrambling out from under Su Luojan's knife, bumping her head into the corner of the coffee table and instantly splitting open the corner of her forehead. Damn, 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 damn. Also, I can relate. I have a pillow and a body pillow. No worries. That sounds ideal. Yes. Chin Chin was disorientated and dizzy from the bump. All she wanted was to wail and call for someone to help her, but she knew that there was no use crying. She had to press her shoulder against the coffee table, again trying to stand up. The knife in Luojan's hand swung too fiercely. It stuck in a wooden cabinet in the corner. The knife was heavy, after all. Using all her strength, she still couldn't pull it out. Flustered and exasperated, Sulujan went up and grabbed Chinchin's hair from behind. Chinchin felt like her whole scalp had been torn off. She could only bend awkwardly under the drawer. Her unstoppable, flowing tears had already soaked the edge of the duct tape. She was like a little lamb being taken to slaughter, but it only aroused the other's desire to torment. Sulojan raised a hand and slapped her. Chinchin, who had never had a finger laid on her, was nearly knocked out of her senses. I'm not going to say that word, said Sulojan. You're just under the influence of the movies and the television. The word was in fact widely used in middle schools and the higher grades of elementary school. There were always some children developing a little earlier than their contemporaries who had the sort of adult flavoring strong vocabulary hanging off their lips, even if at home each one of them played dumb as if butter wouldn't melt in their mouths. Sulujan fiercely pushed Chinchin towards the coffee table. Chinchin's lower back bumped against the short table. The dead person in the old photograph under the table's crystal top showed an intrigued, not quite smile towards the two living, breathing girls. The duct tape on Chinchin's mouth, soaked with her tears, fell away during the struggle. Right away she cried out, "Help me!" The first cry was hoarse and weak. Then, as Chinchin quickly became accustomed to the feeling of speech, her voice became resounding. "Help me! Help me!" My biggest reoccurring nightmare is needing to scream for help and not being able to. So this is just somehow horrifying me. Okay. So Luojan froze at her shout. She had just felt that something had been missing. It wasn't quite scratching the itch. Now she found it was that she hadn't heard screams. Oh, great. Last thing we need is a strange 10-year-old girl's itch being scratched. Chunchin's tearful help me stimulated her. She was like a child who'd received a present. Looking at Chinchin with an expression of happy surprise, she stamped her foot, bringing it down on Chinchin's hand spread out on the floor. At a certain point, the pain was so great, Chinchin could no longer scream. She opened her mouth wide, silently sucking in air. Sulujan said, "Scream! Why won't you keep screaming?" Chinchin was crying so hard she couldn't breathe. Using her remaining strength, she forced out some wavering words. "So, Jidya, I really envy you. At first, Sulujan was indifferent. Only the word envy made her pause slightly. Her hand, about to grab the girl's hair, stopped in mid-air. Her large eyes, like black beans, that's a weird word to choose, staring at Chinchin. Just then, someone pounded heavily on the door several times. A man's gruff voice said, "What's all that racket? Can't a guy get some sleep?" Inside the room, Sulujan and Chinchin trembled simultaneously. The man angrily said, "Open the door, or I'm calling the police. Are you watching horror movies at home in the middle of the night? All this shouting. Do you think you're the only ones who live here?" Luo, frick. Soon Luojan covered Chinchin's mouth. From a cardboard box near her, she pulled out some paper towels left over from who knows when, rolled them up and stuffed them into Chinchin's mouth. Ugh. Ugh. "Sorry, Uncle." Sulujan took a deep breath. Her expression cooled. She spoke softly. "The grown-ups aren't here. I can't just open the door for a stranger. I'll turn the volume down." The man at the door paused, then very severely said, "What's all this? A child? Get over here. I'll take your parents' place and teach you a lesson." "Dude, what the hell are you saying, threatening a child from outside the door? That's not gonna get the door to open. Like, that's the last thing you should be doing." "Yeah, I'm okay, don't worry." Sulujan frowned. Before she had answered, the mental case at the door was already carrying on. "Proper behavior means being public-spirited. Do you know what public spirit is? The very minimum requirement is not to bother people. And you, what school do you go to? I'll have to give your teachers a call. What are they teaching you, little devils?" Seeing he hadn't finished talking, Lujan's small, pretty face was cold. "Uncle, I'm sorry. Is it all right if I apologize?" "What did you say? I can't hear you. Weren't you plenty loud kicking up a fuss before?" Sulujan only wanted to send the suddenly appearing weirdo away. She stuffed the paper towel more firmly into Chinchin's mouth and stood up, walking towards the door. 1 step, 2 steps. Suddenly, on her 7th step, Sulujan stopped in place. Although that person always cleaned the old house and paid the fees regularly, the residents around it knew that no one lived here. It had stood empty for a long time. Why would the person at the door, on hearing that it was a child without adults there in the middle of the night, be wholly unsurprised? Kid's just too clever, isn't she? Sulujan abruptly turned to run. At the same time, the old wooden door was forcefully broken open from outside. A few criminal policemen charged in shortly after. Sulujan grabbed up the chopper stuck in the cabinet. Under severe pressure, the chopper that she hadn't been able to pull out no matter how hard she tried slipped easily from the crack in the cabinet, but the police were about to grab her. Sulujan pointed the chopper at the back of Chinchin's neck. The point of the knife immediately tore open the the girl's snow-white neck. Zulajan screamed, "Step away!" The door that had been broken down was shaking restlessly along the wall. The atmosphere in the room had already congealed. Zulajan immediately crouched down, hiding behind Chinchin, wielding the clumsy chopper as though about to drop it. It circled quickly, at the last stopped at the side of Chinchin's neck. Her hand was shaking uncontrollably. Her eyes stared up like those of a small wild beast fighting to death, fierce and wrathful. Taran hastily stopped the approach of those beside him and stood cautiously some steps away. Sulujan, right? Sulujan didn't make a sound. All kinds of thoughts spun through Taran's mind. For a time he didn't know how he should negotiate with such a small suspect. Just then, Fedu slowly appeared at the door. He turned aside slightly, blocking his injured arm, his gaze absently sweeping a circle around the inside of the room. "Where's the person we want to arrest?" Sulujan paused, involuntarily looking at him. "Oh, there's a kid." Fedu seemed to have just discovered her. Rather slightingly, he asked, "Where did the kidnapping murderer who was with you go?" Zulujan looked at the knife in her hand. She looked at the person under the knife. She raised her head and looked at Fedu as if she didn't know how to answer. "Why didn't you hurry and put the knife down? It's all right now, you don't have to be so nervous." Fedu looked around the room. While the previous generations of owners were already dearly departed, the traces of their chaotic lifestyle had been left behind. The walls were stained a faint yellow with smoke, and there was still a pile of liquor bottles in the corner. "It's really all right. Forcing a child to act as bait and hiding himself. This is my first time seeing such an invasive criminal. Little lady, set your mind at ease. There's a whole crowd of policemen outside. He won't get away. The police uncles and the laws protecting minors will protect you. It's really unfair to make you hold such a big knife. Isn't it heavy?" It had been all right before he had said it. As soon as he mentioned it, Sulujan at once felt that her wrist couldn't stand the burden. It would soon be numb from the weight of the large chopper. At the same time, she consciously understood Fedu's words. The police thought this had been done by that person, and she was only the pitiful bait. The complacency of dumping others rose in Sulmiran's heart. She blinked her eyes red, actually seeming rather more pathetic than Chinchin, abjectly staring towards Fedu. Taran moved forward a step at Fedu's words. Seeing Sulujan cower, he kept a close watch on her hand holding the knife, and crouched down, spreading his hands towards her, bringing his gaze level with the girl's. His gaze was passed as quickly as possible over Chinchin, concentrating on Sulujan. "Is that true? Did someone curse you?" Sulujan only hesitated a few seconds, then nodded resolutely. Turan's voice softened further. He slowly, bit by bit, reached one spread hand towards her. "Give Uncle the knife now, and then you'll take us to arrest the bad guy. Is that all right?" Sulujan stared at his hand, seeming undecided for a time. When Turan's hand reached too close, she rather nervously raised the knife again, the constantly quivering blade leaving several small cuts on Chinchin's neck. She really wouldn't be able to hold the knife much longer. Taran duly stopped her hand in mid-air. "Is the bad guy called Chuan Chow? Did he use you to catch Chutong? Did he do bad things to you?" Peru said, "When your mother was alive, in order to get close to him, did she often dress you up like Western dolls and do your makeup?" I don't know if I'm an idiot, if I never really put those two things together. or if like everything was just happening so quickly that I didn't fully understand the implication of what was just said. Like while I was watching the live action, but damn. Ooh, okay. Sulujan took a thin breath, seeming to use all her power to hold back her agitated emotions. She'd gotten old herself and didn't look like she had back then, so she used a child. She didn't permit you to wear other clothes, didn't permit you to cut your hair, right? Theodore fixed his gaze on her. Did she abuse you? Did she hit you before? Sulujan's tears, real or fake, flowed swiftly as she spoke, obscuring her as he spoke, obscuring her field of vision. Suddenly she felt a tightness on her wrist. Taran had taken the opportunity to grab her hand, holding the chopper. Sulujan struggled up subconsciously. Taran quietly said, "Don't be afraid. It's all right now. It's all right. Uncle knows you're a good child. The bad guy forced you to do all these things. You don't have to worry." His voice was gentle, and the strength he was using to hold her wrist was great. Sulujan had no way to resist. For a moment she didn't budge. Then she finally relaxed her hold and allowed Taran to snatch away her knife. Mm, okay. We knew what was up, but it just, I don't know, I didn't think I internalized what the extent of her connection was to everything while I was watching the live action. So, yeah. A criminal policeman came up at once and picked Chin Chin up, taking her out of range of Su Luojan. Luanzhou, who had just arrived, heard a colleague say over his earbud, "Captain Law, one of the suspects has been captured. She accuses Xu Wenchao of being her accomplice. Can we request a warrant for his arrest?" "Yes, notify the guys keeping an eye on him at once. Don't let the Joker get away." Luanzhou turned and helped lift Chen Chen's stretcher up into the ambulance. He turned to Sulu Zhan, who had been contained by the police. "Where is Chitong? Is she still alive?" Sulojan didn't speak, only shook her head at him. She seemed to think of something. The delicate corner of her mouth turned up uncontrollably. Then she noticed it and very meekly lowered her head. Even though he'd been mentally prepared after seeing the music box, Lo and Joe still felt stifled. His gaze drifted over the girl's slightly curled hair and long, thick eyelashes. Suddenly he felt a strain of hard-to-name, preposterous sadness. He waved a hand, letting his colleagues escort Su Luojan to a police car. He turned his head and looked towards the ambulance. I think the most disturbing part about this, like, which is ridiculous considering the subject matter that we're dealing with, but is the fact that she smiled at the thought of a kid like herself being dead and then caught herself, which just shows how desensitized she was to it all. It's like a train ride. Yeah. It'll get better, not. Oh, that's comforting. A few doctors were attending to the wound on Chinchin's forehead as they asked her some questions. Chinchin's family had already arrived as quickly as possible. The stifling loss in recovery caused Chinchin's mother's legs to give out. She nearly went to her knees. Beside her, her husband quickly helped her up. temporary mutual accusation between the two of them had vanished in an instant. Supporting each other, they walked towards their daughter. She had been missing for nearly 8 hours. Although she'd had her fill of fright, aside from being covered in small wounds, Zhang Yuchen had been brought back safe and sound. It was already nearly a miracle. After a night of bustle, at least they'd saved one. Sighed, then raised a hand out of habit, but he waited an age, and the partner who normally would give him a high five hadn't moved. Luanzhou turned awkwardly and saw that Taran was circling Changning. Changning's tears were still flowing, and Taran was quietly saying something comforting, getting a handkerchief out of his pocket and passing it to her. He'd entirely forgotten about having a partner. Luanzhou. There was actually a man on Earth who valued sex over friendship this much. I don't think it has to do with sex in this instance, Lo and Joan. I don't necessarily think you're much better just because it's the same gender in your case rather than the opposite. What's flirting with Feidu in the middle of the case, may I ask? Um, okay, just then, the palm he hadn't yet pulled back was lightly patted. Flabbergasted, Lowenjo turned his head. He saw that the crippled President Feidu, his arm hanging, had strolled over beside him, and furthermore, from some unknown motive, had condescended to do such a superfluous thing. Having done it, he unhurriedly put his hand in his pocket and looked at Lowenjo with a smile that wasn't quite a smile. How childish, Captain Moore. Lowenjo was speechless. He stared wide-eyed at the temporary staff member, as a matter of course, got into his car and composedly crossed his legs, waiting to be driven. Mm-hmm. I'm fine. Thank you for giving us this break. Priest, we appreciate it. He would vouch for his own well-traveled, well-tested ability to read people. He had absolutely read a flavor of improper flirtation from Feidu's tone and expression. Excuse me, are we being self-aware right now? Well, wonders never cease. The way, the scene just did a 180 from absolute tragedy to flirtation is just a little bit of whiplash, but it's the kind of whiplash I'm here for. The much needed flirting, indeed, and it's not what's happening. You're the one me. Oh my word, okay, we are fine. Lorenzo thought in disbelief, is he trying to climb all over me? No, climb up to the heavens? Maybe yes to both. Who knows? Okay, 2 more chapters left. We're definitely gonna be going over the 2 hour mark. I'm sorry guys in advance. Chapter 49, Humbert 16. The days of my youth, whenever I look back on them, seem like white snowflakes in a morning snowstorm, blown away from me in a flurry. Lolita. I never want to read that book. You're going to have to put in some work, comrades. I'll reimburse you for midnight snacks and the ladies' facial masks. The ones who have wives and children, I'll send home letters of recompense. Of repentance in your place. Even if we have to work all night, even if we have to dig all the way down to the old Sioux home, we must get to the bottom of this. I want to see that little girl, Chutong, alive or dead. Having finished speaking in the walkie-talkie, the Windrow turned to Feidu, who was watching him full of interest. Youngster, I feel you may be the reincarnation of a bearer of ill fortune. Did you really just pull out your old man card, like now? This birthday of yours has truly been happy and blessed. I can't take you all the way home. Should I call you a cab or let you down at some hotel on the way to make do? Fedu didn't answer. A purpose of nothing, he said instead, "What do you guys normally eat for a midnight snack when you're on duty?" "Normally we eat luxurious set meals of illegally recycled cooking oil." Ooh. Lowenjo's expression was a little bitter. An unreasonable person may sometimes eat something of a slightly higher grade. For example, McDonald's. Mm-hmm. They do. Dot dot dot. Nonsense. Lowenjo turned the steering wheel in the direction of the city bureau. Irritably, he said, "If they were all as hard to please as you, could I afford to reimburse them? There's a hotel up ahead, half a month's wages for one night. Should I stop?" "I won't stay at that one," Fredu said unhurriedly towards the bitterly oppressed public servant who had fried chicken to fill his hunger and illegally recycled cooking oil to assuage his thirst. The dramatics. I love this writing so much. Like, I wish I could replicate it in my own writing, and I just know I cannot. I am not at all up at the level of priest. Okay, where are we with the comments? Priest Rhea also guess who's taking the lead in this relationship? Putting two W's? Oh, two wolves together. Okay, I see. It resulted in a fight to the top for Winddrawer in Word of Honor Tenyaku. And a flirt to the top here. I love that. I love them so much. I love how all of us are just on the same page fangirling right now. It's very much needed after what we just went through. Okay, where were we? Oh, right, at the assuaging his thirst. The incense in their lobby is too strong, and the bathrooms don't have tubs. Next, disregarding the surges of enmity he'd attracted, he directed, "Just drive on. There's a six-star service hotel near your bureau that I can make do with. I can stroll over there myself." Make do with. Law and jaw, dot dot dot. He resisted for an age, but in the end couldn't hold back. "President Fay, from morning to night, all you do is play around and raise hell. You don't do any proper business. Is your family money enough to squander all your life? What'll you do when you've wasted the whole fortune? No one will even blow wind for you to drink. And you're all grown up now. After today, yesterday, if you go to the Civil Administration Bureau, you can still legally apply for a marriage certificate. Can't you be a little less high maintenance?" One word. At least you know what's coming and can sleep on it. Oh goodness, you guys are scaring me. Please don't spoil anything. Oh. Speaking of sleep, gotta go and get some now. Okay, sleep well. And the replay will be here for you when you are ready for it. But thank you so much for coming. It was much appreciated. Okay, where were we? Oh, the elbow of Feidu's uninjured arm rested against the car door. He didn't answer, only smiled with his chin in his hand. Law and Jaw didn't know what there was to smile about. He got anxious at the sight of him. If he hadn't taken pity on his walking wounded status today, he would have nearly thrown the person out of the car. After a while, Feidu asked, "Are you sure you don't need me to keep helping?" The fact that he's offering, I can't deal. At this point, I'm just piecing together the big plot. Oh my word, I'm not even there yet. I'm just stuck on Feidu and Law and Joe flirting. "Do you have a rank? Do you get paid?" In the end, Law and Joe didn't make him walk. Still criticizing, he turned off onto the opposite side road as he approached the city bureau, driving towards a hotel building that could be called a local landmark. What does this have to do with you? I heard that the so-called accomplice you arrested was accused by the savage little girl, and aside from that, you have no other evidence, right? Lowenjo expressionlessly said, ongoing investigations are confidential. Before he'd finished, Feidu was already evenly going on. Oh, right. It was also that he had some connection to the serial kidnappings of little girls 20 years ago, so he seemed suspicious. Lowenjaw secretly ground his teeth, internally plotting to get back and closely investigate just which bastard's mouth had been so unguarded. Or he's just smart. I don't know. Don't worry, just watch the babies fight slash flirts. Before I go a little off topic, but since you've already read Senior Code, do you plan to read Chie Lord Seventh? I'm not sure. If I were to read it, it would be far in the future right now because I want to prioritize finishing Mordu, um, getting up to date with Urha because I know that's still going to be a while. I'm finishing up Scumberland, so if I do get to it, it's going to be not in this year, definitely, unfortunately. Which bastard probably himself. Could you imagine? Probably, right. Oh my word. Okay. Where Oh, that is, you don't have evidence. The little girl isn't fully 13 years old. Her IQ seems high, but her mental state can't be described as stable. How much credibility can her testimony have? The alibi of the man you arrested today was personally supplied by the police force. What if he persists in denials? Thady spread his hand slightly. And there is that little girl. You won't get anything out of her mouth. At any rate, you can't torture a confession out of her. Are you really planning to call in a specialist on children's criminal psychology this very night? Each word Fedu spoke was true. All of these things were giving Lowenjo a headache. All of tonight's operations lacked the support of real evidence. If they hadn't rescued Chinchin in the end, having relied solely on Lowenjo acting on his own initiative, shooting first and asking permission later, he'd have been in, in for it the next day. He'd already driven up the ground floor of the hotel, surplus cold air, assaulted the senses, carrying the scent of the lobby's chill and serene incense, refreshing to the heart and mind. Though it was the small hours of the morning, there was still a doorman on duty who energetically stepped up to welcome the guest. Feidu got out of the car and was about to go when he suddenly remembered something and turned back. He leaned down and knocked on the window of Lowenjo's car, then pulled open the driver's side door. I left my phone, he said. Could you pass it to me? Lowenjo gave an okay and picked the phone up from the passenger seat. He was about to pass it over, but Feidu, seeming unable to wait, reached out his hand to take it. Okay. His shirt, disheveled from the car accident, hung down loosely. From Lowenjo's point of view, he could just see into his drooping collar. His chest was a little thin, but displayed under a set of clearly defined collarbones, it had a sense of restrained power. He hadn't just purposefully spread himself with cologne today, but this person didn't. Oh, okay. Degenerate flesh had absorbed all the world's essences. From his collar came a faint, almost untraceable masculine scent, vanishing without a trace before it could clearly be considered. We've lost Lo and Joy. He's gone. Oh my word. Um. Okay, hold on. do you have any plans for reading Chen Ju, The Ballad of Sword and Wine? I actually really do want to read it. Don't know when, but I do know it was licensed recently. So maybe once it comes out, I can give the first volume a try and see how I feel about it. Um, yeah, and another QY stan. Oh my goodness, the scene. I'm slowly combing through Priest's works, just about to read Tina Kerr. Yeah, I also have a read along for that, but that was helped along by one of my amazing viewers, and also she's the what do you call it? I want to say mentor. That's not the word. Moderator on Discord, Vivi. Um, okay. The infamous Muxiang, the one that makes Lowenjo's knees jelly. Oh, keep in mind Lowenjo is tired. I smell this love every time it appears in Motu. This is Muxiang the cologne's name? Um, Also, I want to quickly. Oh, did you guys hear that one of Priest's novels was licensed for becoming a Taiwanese BL? So, in case anyone's interested. Um, okay, where are we? Reaching out his arm to take the phone, Feidu almost brushed against him. After the near contact, his finger, by accident or by design, touched Luo and Jaw as he grabbed his phone. It's one. It sounds like it's a normal one. It's not one. Not normal. Like modern. Um, but it's one that I don't think I've read. Um, Let me quickly check for you guys. I feel like I should still have the tab open somewhere. I'm so sorry. I think the title that you can look it up under on my drama list is The Only One, I think. Yeah, I think that's the one. It should say like Taiwanese 2024. That's all the information I have for you guys. Like, if I can find it, I shall drop it in the comments. I'm so sorry. Was it Momo? I don't know if Momo was is like the. I don't know. Let me not. But I'm pretty sure the English title they're going by for it is The Only One. Yeah. Okay. Where are we? Where are we? I totally sidetracked myself. I'm so sorry, guys. Reaching out his arm to take the phone, Fedu almost brushed against him. After this near contact, his finger, by accident or by design, touched Jaw as he grabbed his phone. Jaw, dot dot dot. In the middle of the night, for a young and vigorous man interested in men and having no fixed partner, under the infinite stress of work, to be taken by surprise by this sort of provocation was no less tragic than for a person who had been fasting for 3 days to see a late night online ad for a Michelin restaurant. There we go. Um, okay, so let me just see, because maybe I can actually do that. You guys completely distracting me right now. Let's see. It should be here somewhere. Dagger by Priest. Does that ring a bell to anyone? Mm, yeah, I'm not sure. That's the only info I have here. Sorry, am I distracting you guys? I'm really sorry about that. I'm a bad influence. Uh, try and refocus myself. But that is the info that I have for you guys. I hope I didn't disappoint you. um, okay, great. So I'm talking some sense. Yeah, same. Also haven't read it. I should still be here in the morning. Come find me if you need me. Peidu straightened as if nothing had happened, sticking the pestilential. I feel like I should kind of understand that word, but I rarely used it. Phone in his pocket. I can talk to the girl for you. While I'm not an expert in the troubled young people, I have a considerable wealth of experience being a troubled young person. Mentally and physically exhausted, Lowendraw waved his hand. Go away already. When Fedu had really gone away, Lowendraw stopped his car by the side of the road and smoked 2 cigarettes in a row before he had finally recovered from his awkward half-hod. Ow, there was my face. Okay, sorry. Condition. He started the car and went back to the city bureau, his heart full of vicissitudes in spite of himself. When an ordinary person was busy with studies or work, he could still resolve his personal problems by the blind date method. Matters were much less convenient for those with niche interests. When he just graduated, young Lord Law had, like Fedu, fooled around all over for a few years. Later, he'd found that uh, while disillusion was easy, finding a suitable person was very hard. Moreover, he'd found that so-called enchantment was a four-step process. First infatuation, then habituation, then insipidness, and finally a revulsion of taste. Okay. Adding in his increasing stress at work taking away his attention, Laundrette slowly evolved an elderly lifestyle of going to and from work, coming home, and petting the cats. Okay. Okay, sorry, let's see. Definitely gonna delish in the adaptation. He's very tired of. Yeah, I also need to know what the synopsis for it is. I haven't checked because they don't have. I literally just heard that it was an adaptation by a priest that was getting a Thai retelling on Twitter. Then I went to look at the My Drama Cool page for it, but it didn't have it. If it did have a description, I don't think I even looked at it. I was just trying to see if they tagged it as an adaptation. But yeah, so I haven't checked the synopsis yet. If someone wants to drop that in the comments, that would be nice. Now normal had she insisted it was. Yeah, if it would be completed, that would be amazing. I do think there's more of a chance of it because it's Taiwanese and not mainland China. So, fingers crossed. But while his mentality was elderly, his body was, after all, still young. An enormous contradiction had arisen between his psychological and mental states. Lowenjo had the perturbed thought that if he carried on like this, one day he just might take a shine to Liu Guo's big fluffy tail. Okay, did not see the sentence taking that turn. I don't know what that word is. He erasably floored the gas pedal. The car groaned and gave a bound, charging towards the brightly lit city bureau. Captain Luo, Shu and Zhao's been arrested. He's in an interrogation room, and Su Luozhan is in another. Xiaolan is watching her. Are you planning? Before the words were spoken, Luo hurried steps had halted. He'd seen a stopped figure in the corridor. Uncle Guo? Guo Heng pinched out the edge of his cigarette and slowly stopped, striving to straighten his back, but it still wouldn't straighten. Is this the guy that he spoke to that was the father that killed one of the guys? Because I forgot that person's name. Mm. Rowanjo said, Why would you be. Did you come to see me today because you're investigating the old case again? Okay, yeah, that's him. Guo Heng looked at him with a scorching gaze. That's right, isn't it? My daughter. You haven't found her after all these years? I heard you've just brought a girl back, still living. Is that true? Haven't you arrested the suspect? Is there a hope that you can clear up what happened to Fei Fei? Aside from Wu Guangquan, was there also an accomplice? In the old man's turbid eyes, the flames described by the venerable Yang seemed to have been rekindled, making it hard to look directly at him. Like, I get where this man's coming from, but the last thing we need is for him to stir up trouble in the middle of their investigation. Like, he could be the reason this guy doesn't end up going to jail if he's not careful. Lowenjoa didn't know what to say. He could only awkwardly muddle out, We'll do our best, our very best. Having said it, he greased his steps and hurriedly ran off. When he had gone far, he could still feel Bo Hung watching him go, eyes about to burn through his back. In the interrogation room, Shu and Chao called before the throne twice in one day, having gone from assisting in the investigation to suspect, arrested in his residence in the middle of the night, was looking very bad. His face was wan from missing sleep, and there was a stubble at the corners of his mouth. His manner didn't seem so polite now. Yea. All three fingers were laced together, laid on his legs. There was an inexpressible strain on his pale face. I didn't. Shu and Chao's tone was helpless and blameless, but his words were sharp. I'll say it again. I didn't kidnap any little girls, and I didn't kill anyone. You've seen my vehicle location record. Illegally followed and spied on me. I'd like to ask, if I may, having encroached upon a person's fundamental rights to this extent, what evidence have you found that I've killed someone? Oh my word. Um, okay, yeah. The criminal policeman interrogating him coldly said, Suluojan kidnapped a girl at her school, maltreated her and attempted to murder her. At the crime scene, she called your number twice. In front of everyone, she accused you of being her accomplice. What else do you have to quibble about? Shu and Chao leaned back in his chair and used his unique gentle voice to say, A phone call and the words of a child, and suddenly I'm a murderer. I think you've understood today what's meant by if you're determined to hang someone, you can always find a pretext. Why would Su Luojan call you, and why would she make a false accusation against you? Shu Wenchao paused and calmly raised his eyes. Watching on the surveillance feed, Luo Wenzhou got a clear look at his expression and had a sudden surge of foreboding. The person was too calm, too confident, really without a hint of panic, as if he held some unknown trump card. I love the interrogation part of the chapter, yes. Um, I'm not liking it at the moment because I can't remember how it turned out, and um, as Lauren George just astutely pointed out, he is too calm. And also, I don't like the fact that the police officer just laid out their cards like that. I don't know if it's a requirement by law for them to do that, but I feel like that's maybe not the best choice. Um, Because her mom and I were in a romantic relationship, said Shu Wen Chao. Yes, I didn't say so when I was here this afternoon because I was afraid it would cause trouble. I've loved Su Shalan since I was little, but she didn't love me. She'd rather have lived in abject misery than have me. Only when she learned she didn't have long to live did she selfishly afford me a bit of warmth as alms. But I shed tears of gratitude for it, even wanted to marry her. Not for the fact that she didn't make it that long. I'd be Su Luojan's stepfather now. Because we don't have a legal relationship, it's very difficult for me to take the child to raise her. I've had to slowly think of a way, meanwhile doing everything in my power to materially support her. She'd call me if she ever needed anything, that's very normal. But you didn't pick up. Yeah, you didn't, dude. I didn't pick up because I discovered that I was being spied on. Shu and Chao said blandly. Okay, no, but that doesn't work because if you're being spied on, you would probably just go about your day normally, not giving them anything to be suspicious about, which would include you answering the phone because you're a normal person who has nothing to hide. But you do have something to hide, because otherwise you would have just told them about your relationship with Su Shalan and not hidden it, because otherwise it would make you look suspicious, you idiot. Sorry, I'm being very rude to him, but I don't like him. Um, yes, it's it's a kind of requirement since he's her guardian and must be informed of her arrest. No, but he's not her guardian legally though, so he wouldn't need to be informed of her arrest. He just admitted that he has no legal claim over her. Okay. Um, Even if it hadn't been her on the phone, only some package delivering service or real estate marketer, I still wouldn't have picked up. Officer, I suppose that under the severe press of public rights, I'm still entitled to maintain some last bit of freedom. So you're saying that Su Luojan falsely accused you? I don't know why the child said that. If it's true, then I'm very aggrieved. Her mother always rather neglected her. Comparatively speaking, I feel myself qualified for the responsibility of a stepfather. The girl's upbringing was free, and her conduct really was somewhat overbearing. I disciplined her, perhaps she felt a little rebellious towards me. At this point, Shu and Chao paused slightly, or perhaps she didn't know what she was saying at all. There was someone prompting her. There was someone prompting her, unfortunately. criminal policeman smacked the table. None of that nonsense. The surviving victim testified that after Sulujan called you, she said, "If you won't come, I'll do it myself." The old two-family residence has been kept clean by hourly workers hired by you, and the water and electricity bills have been paid out of your bank account. What were you doing maintaining an old house that was about to be torn down? It clearly showed you were up to something unspeakable. If we hadn't been keeping an eye on you today, the kidnapped girl may not have lived to see tomorrow's sun. Ooh. Shu and Chow shook his head. What's the causal relationship between maintaining an old residence and kidnapping murder? Following your logic, I suppose all crimes that take place within the scope of the city are the responsibility of the city government. No, that's not. That's a false equivalence, good sir. Didn't say he'd had his brain damaged by a fever. Lowenjo raised his brows in astonishment. This looks pretty quick-witted to me. Can being a stupid, I'm not going to say that word, be intermittent? Oh my word. Lowenjo's quips I can't get enough of. Um, Captain Law, if he continues to deny it, and we don't have evidence, are we going to have to give him a lie detector test? Those aren't admissible in court, so it doesn't help. Go look into his bank accounts, credit cards, vehicles, and properties under his name. Take his photograph to all the large car rental agencies and ask around. There's also his personal relationships. He may have been driving a borrowed car when he committed the crime. The fact that there's nothing wrong with his driving history for the day Chutong was kidnapped shows that he didn't drive a car under his own name. I don't believe that he had the ability to ride an entire four-wheeled vehicle. While Lowenjo was still speaking, the criminal policeman inside the interrogation room said, "I'll ask you again. Where were you on the night of the 27th? At home, reading a book." Shu and Chow's expression didn't flicker. "I'm a freelancer. I didn't go to work every day. Reading at home is very normal." "If you were at home reading, then what did you rent a car for?" This was a bluff. If the car Shu and Chow had driven that day in Westridge hadn't been his own, then whether he borrowed it from an acquaintance or had a personal car registered under someone else's name, there would be traces to follow. It would be easy to investigate. The best choice would have been for him to go to an irregularly managed rental agency and rent a car. There are some unregistered companies that were purely illegally operated, very well hidden. This was Chu and Chow's most likely method. That's fair. Closed his mouth, crossed his arms over his chest, and focused, waiting for Chu and Chow's excuse. But Chu and Chow implacably raised his brows in seemingly sincere astonishment. "Officer, what are you talking about?" "Mm, On the evening of the 27th, you followed a school bus set out from West Ridge, waiting for an opportunity to act against one of the 11 girls on the bus. You happened to witness the school bus being hijacked. In the process, a girl called Chutong jumped out of the bus and ran into you and Shulinjan. Luojan, sorry. She trusted you, asked for your help, and got into your car. She didn't know she was delivering herself to her ruin at your beastly hands." Shu and Chao sneered. That's simply the interrogating criminal policeman sternly interrupted his defense. The security cameras around the museum caught your car's license plate number. What else have you got to quibble about? Officer, Chuan Chow asked coldly, could you tell me what time on the 27th this happened? The interrogating policeman coldly said, you don't know yourself? I really don't know. Chuan Chow lightly raised his hands and shook his head. All right, since you're determined to trap me, it seems you won't tell me the exact time, but I have to say a few words for myself. If this crime occurred during the first half of the night, I'm afraid I wouldn't have had time to go over there. You've seen where my house is located. Driving to this west ridge you're talking about would have taken at least 3 hours. There's not considering traffic and poor weather conditions. Around 8:30 on the night of the 27th, I ordered takeout at home. The order number and delivery time are recorded. If I'm lucky, the delivery person will remember me. Ruinjaw's heart gave a thump. He found that his premonition had come true. I advise you to verify it as fast as possible and clear my name. Shuwen Chow looked down at his watch. It seems I'll be spending the night at the Public Security Bureau. Can you tell me when I can ask for a lawyer? Oh, right. Also, although I still don't clearly understand what Su Luozhan is meant to have done, she's still little after all. Can you officers go easy on her? If necessary, I'm willing to bear the responsibility of acting as her guardian. Yeah, see, so even here, he says he's willing to bear the responsibility of acting as her guardian, so I don't think he's actually her guardian in this case. Um, but yeah, it doesn't matter either way, because, like, I do feel that the ambiguity with which um, Priest is handling the legal system in some ways is very strategically done in order to not have too many plot holes and loopholes. We did it. We're at chapter 50. Okay, one more chapter to go, and then we're done for the night. Um, oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to prepare myself because I feel like I'm gonna be frustrated before we finally hopefully get this guy. Chapter 50, Humbert 90. Sorry, not 19, 17. At hmm, At 8:30 p.m. on the 27th, Shu and Chao actually was at home. Taran had first followed the hospital and had a few words with Chin Chin, who was gradually regaining awareness, then had once again rushed back. On the way, he'd received word and stopped on his way to verify Shu and Chao's alibi. Also checked into his takeout record for the past half year. It's very regular. A handful of restaurants, the delivery people all know him. A criminal policeman asked, could he have bought off the delivery person? Go ahead and have a look into the witness's personal relationship with Shu and Chow, but I think the possibility isn't great. Lu and Zhou, takeout delivery people are all kids. They don't stay long in their jobs. They change over every 2 or 3 months. At most, they're passing familiar with customers. It's not very possible that they perjure themselves in a major case of this sort for the sake of a customer who ordered food. And besides, not every person who dare talk nonsense in front of the police. There's another point. What? My shoes are the size of 42. Jaws lightly stamped one foot. When Shu and Chow came in this afternoon, he was wearing sneakers and I couldn't really see, but judging from the leather shoes he was wearing when he came in now, my visual assessment that they should be smaller. He could still have worn bigger shoes to throw people off, but maybe I'm just being hopeful here. Um, there was an uproar in the conference room. Just then, Meng Chao came into the conference room last of all and flung herself into a chair. Boss, hurry and get someone else to do it. I'm at my wits' end with that child. Looking at her gives me the creeps. Luanzhou asked what happened with Su Luojan. Oh, she's extremely relaxed and eats and sleeps. Meng Chao shook her head and took a can of coffee tossed by a colleague. She's not afraid of grown-ups. She's not afraid of the police. I still don't know what the theory is. Maybe she's too young, doesn't understand the consequences of what she's done, or maybe she's too crafty, knowing she's young, and so she has no fear. If you talk to her nicely, she simply plays dumb, simpers and puts on a scene. If you try and scare her, she looks at you with a cheeky grin. Oh yeah, just now she asked me for a bottle of sweet milk. When she finished drinking it, she said, I'm sleepy, can I sleep for a bit? And then she really did sleep. I'm telling you the truth. If I'd done a bad thing and got caught red-handed and taken the Public Security Bureau, I'd be scared to death. I definitely wouldn't be able to sleep. Is this child human? If you'd been surrounded by people like murdering other kids your age, I don't think you'd be scared of much else. Um, Rowan Joe didn't answer. With a very grave expression, he lit a cigarette. Without putting it in his mouth, he became lost in thought. Without any doubt, Shu and Chao had played some role in this business. Otherwise, there couldn't be so many coincidences. He had a series of ties to the cases 20-some years ago, and now his relationship with Su Xiaolan and her daughter ran deep. Su Luojan had called him twice from the crime scene and had accused him without any hesitation when the police had asked. And his bearing the 2 times in one day that he'd been brought before the throne was very worthy of consideration. The first time, his bearing had been gentle and polite, but he'd shown himself as not the sharpest knife, readily resorting to the excuse of memory loss, and when pressed by Taran into an awkward position, he seemed to not have expected such a development and panicked a little. But the second time was sharp and calm, methodical, his speech watertight. In the middle of the night, the police had brought into his home, had burst into his home to arrest him, and he had been fully dressed. The first time Shu and Chao had come, he'd indicated that he'd heard a radio broadcast and knew about Chu Tong's case. The information released to the public had, of course, not included concrete details, but the 2 key points of the night of the 27th in the Westbridge district had been there. He clearly had such a definite alibi, so why hadn't he mentioned it? Had he been fully unprepared, panicked, and forgotten, or had he not noticed that the police suspected him? Or had he just been testing the police force's reaction? If it was the latter, then that was too frightening. But no matter what, a person couldn't split himself into two, couldn't be in 2 places at the same time. That was an objective fact. Oh, every single time they get into a tight spot, I'm like, why isn't Feidu here? And then they just keep on ignoring me. Joe muttered silently to himself for a moment, then knocked on the table. Come on, everyone listen up. In a while I'll need your help getting some statistics. Just then, the conference room door was pushed open from outside. The officer on duty in the reception room stuck his head and interrupted Law and Joe. Captain Law, I think this is the takeout you guys ordered. They've delivered it. Beidou coming in clutch, I'm assuming. Law and Joe froze. Before he could speak, some strapping young fellows who'd been rushing about half the night had already thrown themselves over, their eyes glinting green. Then they took the bags, had a look, and were struck dumb. What had been delivered in the middle of the night wasn't roasted skewers of Maltang. It wasn't even McDonald's or KFC. Although two large bags had been delivered, one was a heat-preserved, ready-to-eat bag, and the other was a cold storage bag packed with dry ice, both printed with scrumptious logo. The plates and cutlery packed away in a special cardboard box were too expensive that they simply didn't seem like single-use products. Oh my word. Not Fadu being like, I know you're older, but I'm still the sugar daddy. I cannot deal. Once opened, they contained Chinese cuisines and Western cuisine, cold dishes and hot dishes. The cold storage bag also contained a few cartons of fresh ice cream, as if it had come from the dining room of some luxury hotel, which it had. Lowenjo choked himself half dead on a mouthful of smoke. Lang Chao was the first to recover, deftly snatching up a carton of ice cream and hugging it to her chest. My goodness, boss, you're too nice. Oh my word. Taran, shaken, said, What are you doing? Are you not planning on living for the next half month? Boss, did you buy a winning lottery ticket? You must have won big in the European Cup betting pool. What are you saying? Could our captain do that? Hey, Captain Law, did your mom and dad suddenly give you spending money? Spending money for no reason? To be paying special attention out of nowhere? Do you think they're bribing you because they're going to have a second child? All these speculations, oh my word. Lowenjo said, Bribe? My ass, beat it. This truly was a group of beloved colleagues. He turned over the heat-preserving bag and with a shock saw a familiar logo on it. He'd just been at their door. The corner of Lowenjo's eye began to twitch. Just take the win, Lowenjo, damn it. Hey, this seemed to be that nouveau Richie hotel in the north. Lang Chao said suddenly. Their dining room is as snooty as all get out. How come they're working in the middle of the night and even delivering takeout? So in touch with the people. Eating can't even stop up your mouth. Two small veins stood up at the corner of Lowenjo's forehead. What the hell are all these questions coming from? You don't want to eat, get to work. And Charles scrutinized Lowenjo's expression, and the corpse of her long-dead teenage girl's heart twitched. She's one of us. Thinking about it carefully, a midnight snack out of a romantic novel like this really didn't seem to fit with Captain Law's Jiangbing fruit warm soy milk homebody style. A whole new level of thought poured into her brain. Lang Chao blurted out, Wait a minute, is someone trying to put the moves on you by sending you all your favorite foods on purpose? Ow! Lowenjo had used rolled up paper to hit her squarely on the forehead. Oh my word. Feigning deafness and dumbness, Lowenjo forcibly ignored the subject of the midnight snack. Among the scents of foodstuffs assaulting the nose, he unflappably picked up where he'd left off before the interruption. You eat while I talk. I need all of you to split into two groups. The first group will go through the missing child database and pull the records of all the missing children cases from each of the city's administrative districts and counties. Focus particularly on the children's sex, age, physical appearance at the time they went missing, and an outline of the details of the case. Using these four criteria in that order, we'll roughly sift through them. First, restrict the time to the last 2 years. You suspect Chitong wasn't the first? Asked Taran. The suspect's lengthy stalking was done without leaving traces, and in an emergency situation they calmly carried off Chitong. That clearly shows that they had a definite goal then, following and kidnapping. It doesn't feel like they acted on a sudden impulse. I think Chitong definitely isn't the first. Heavily, Lowenjo said, Even if we can't find evidence this time, we'll have to find it before we'll have to find it for before. The second group, I want you to dig into all of Su Luojan, Su Shaolan, and Xu Wenchao's materials, schools, transcripts, bank accounts, phone records, personal computers, and other such equipment. Thoroughly investigate everything. This is a lot. These two assignments were like two great mountains. Even listening with your ankle, you could have heard the immense pressure settling over everyone's heads like 5 elemental mountains. Some took notes, some kept their heads down and ate. Even the gourmet midnight snack had lost its flavor. No one cared now to probe into the truth about it. Lowenjaw picked up a fried chicken wing with a paper napkin, and in a flash picked it clean, like a locust descending on her rice field. This is all demanding work. Once you've finished replenishing your strength, get to it. Xiaolang, come collect the results. Boss, should we question Su Luojan again? It's no use, said Lo Wenjaw. Dealing with grown-ups, you can excite him, scare him, trick him. But this Su Luojan, when she's sitting across from you, she doesn't consider you as the same type of creature as herself. Maybe in her eyes there's no difference between humans and sheep, all prey and food. And she's also too young. Her testimony can only be used as reference. This has to be solid. The relative of a victim from the case from 20 years ago is out in the corridor right now. I think none of us wants to drag this out until we retire. Hop on it. Ooh, I'm quite tired right now. Let's just see where we're at. Oh damn, this is a long chapter. Mm, this might be a problem. Okay, just give me a second. I just quickly need to grab some water because I'm out of tea again, and then we can continue on. Because we've been at it for at least 2 hours now, I think, and also my camera's about to die, so I will be back shortly. Sorry about that. I realize you guys probably heard the sound of my camera reconnecting because I forgot to mute the desktop audio. So I hope it didn't deafen anyone. But okay, we are back. Let's see if we can finish this up before we reach the 11:30 mark, because 3 hours is a lot longer than I'm used to for lives. But let us see. Okay. Um, okay, hop on it. The sort of dry and dull work of sifting through the documents couldn't get the adrenaline flowing. The small hours of the morning especially made people drowsy, and only by relying on inferior coffee could they force themselves to focus. The records of missing children were all very succinct: boy or girl, how old, when, and how they disappeared. As for how the child had acted, what they'd liked, what their temperament had been, what family members still woke from nightmares every night, planning to spend the remainder of their lives immersed in a hopeless search, none of this would be reflected on paper. All the tragedies spread out together were like an inscription tablet of victims of a disaster, both heartbreaking and monstrous. Sorry, not monstrous. That was me projecting. Monotonous. In the blink of an eye, it was light. The conference room was piled with empty coffee cans and cigarette ends. Girls aged 9 to 14 disappeared for no reason, no news to this day, excluding those who left letters saying they were leaving home and those whose deaths were later confirmed when their bodies were found. In the last year, there were 32 in all. That's so many. 31 in the year before that. Considering physical characteristics, removing those who developed comparatively early and rather resembled adults in appearance, as well as those who had yet to enter puberty and still looked like they'd lost their first tooth. Last year there were 26 cases, 20 the year before. Lorenzo poured water onto a damp towel and wiped his face. Adding in the floral pattern dresses, 7 last year, 8 the year before. Chow looked up. Around her, her colleagues were all yawning their heads off. Only she, her face white from the glare of the computer screen, all at once didn't have a trace of sleepiness in her bloodshot eyes. Captain Law, do you guys want to have a look? She linked the laptop to the conference room's projector, throwing the collected photographs up onto the projection screen. Taran, halfway through a yawn, forced it back. The 15 girls looked at individually didn't look alike, but assembled together, their particular characteristics were strangely and endlessly diluted. Only the delicate quality belonging to the girls between early childhood and teens were prominent, uncommonly unified. At a glance, one simply couldn't tell them apart. Taran whispered, "No way." These girls were all like dried flowers sprinkled on the ground, submerged in the sea of missing children notices, gradually becoming pressed among the pages of unsolved cases, gone without a trace. If not for this chance, no one would have discovered that these cases had grown in the same vine. This was a poisonous vine growing hidden in a deep forest under a bright sun, its system a colossal its root system colossal, its tendrils dolorous, like an invisible net, revealing only the tip of the iceberg already made one tremble in fear. That's great. We love that. Frick. Thanks for your hard work. No problem. We're holding on. Uh, I wanted to go see the scene and the drama. Reading it felt so creepy, bone chilling. Yeah. Go back, said Laundra. Look, 10 years, no, 20 years back. Trace all the way back to the Lotus Mountain serial kidnapping case. First thing in the morning, Fedu had a change of clothes brought over. He arranged himself and had his assistant drive him to Dr. Bayer's house. But the door was opened by a middle-aged man. The man was of medium height, square-faced, with very broad shoulders. He wore glasses and was dressed in so plainly as to be unnoticeable, but his gaze inexplicably made Fedu frown. This guy is the next villain, I'm pretty sure. His expression was neither powerful nor sharp, but it had a special presence, like a thin needle silently passing through a person's pores. Oh, don't like that description. Fedu stared, then very politely said, "Hello, I'm looking for Dr. Bai. I arranged to see her yesterday. Oh, said the middle-aged man, pushing up his glasses. I know, you must be young Mr. Fei. Bai Qian is my spouse. Please come in." As he spoke, Dr. Bai had already come out to meet her guest. The man seemed to be in a hurry to go. He said a warm goodbye to Dr. Bai, stuck his briefcase under his arm, and left. He works at Yan City Public Security University. Interesting. Seeing Fedu turn his head to look at the man, she gave a brief introduction. In fact, he's just a quote spouting bookworm who can't do anything. Morning to night, he only teaches classes and writes essays. That book you want to borrow was edited by him. Fedu's gaze fell on the book in his hand, Study on Psychology of Criminal Abuse, lingering momentarily on the editor's name, Pan Yin Tang. How have you been recently? Dr. Bai poured him some tea. Last time when you told me you wanted to do a postgraduate degree, you really gave me a scare. That was my first time hearing of a successful social figure like you having such a completely incongruous plan in life. Do you think you flipped through too many scholarly texts with me? I'm just a mascot to begin with, said Fedu, not minding. My father left me an outstanding team of professional managers who can cooperate and also balance each other out. They have no use for me taking everything onto myself. The other shareholders are even more eager for me to not put my hands in. Just behave and collect my dividends. What everyone loves to see is for my type of useless son of the house to go earnestly study something, instead of waving around the Westpac diploma and making a spectacle of himself. Surprised, Dr. Bai said, "For your requirements, wouldn't going abroad to get a MBA, be more helpful? Our field is too out of the way, isn't it?" Fedu laughed. "Dr. Bai, other wastrels like me are doing mystical studies or specializing in the Beatles. Comparatively speaking, my hobbies interests aren't especially niche." Fair. He's so self-aware, he is indeed. Dr. Bai laughed in spite of herself. "That's true, and anyway, you don't need to worry about employment prospects. Which area are you most interested in? Perhaps I could introduce you to an advisor." "This area is pretty interesting." Fedu waved the thick book in his hand. Dr. Bai stared, then saw the young man's face show a trace of joking self-mockery. "I've heard there are quite a few fine-looking beauties in the public security system. What if I can put myself in a favorable position?" Fedu, the ever-living flirt. When Fedu said goodbye to Dr. Bai and left, it was already afternoon. His fully charged phone had lain peacefully in his pocket, not ringing. Fedu thought it over a while. He got his assistant's attention and said, "Go to the city bureau." He's like, if he's not gonna come to me, I will go to him. This is instead. President Faye, what happened? Are you going to report a case? Fadu smiled at her. The assistant had been with him for several years and could identify the meaning of each of the Playboy's smiles. She at once gave a shudder, feeling that this young master's tastes were becoming increasingly intense. Oh, what a weird place to end it. I know this is a very strange place to end it, but it is the place I'm gonna choose to end it nonetheless. So that is the end of volume 2, part 1 of Modu, and then I think depending on how things go, I'm gonna be resuming it at the same time that I resume Scum Villain, but I don't know when that will be. So we shall have to wait and see. One beauty I particularly like, wink wink, Yeah, at least it isn't a depressing ending. I was genuinely kind of concerned about that being a possibility, not gonna lie. I am very scared to be going into like uncharted territory when we check back in with this because obviously we've now caught up to the drama, so I don't know what to expect of this. I'm scared. Anyway, that is the end of today's live. Thank you guys so much for joining me and being patient with all the stuttering and the very tiredness that hit me here at the end. Um, but yeah, if you guys want to join me for Urha, I will be seeing you guys on Tuesday and Thursday, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day or night, wherever you are. And I'll see you guys again next time. 再见。